It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantha Tracks TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine. This is your host, Brian Cameron, back once again with our weekly recap of all things Star Wars that have happened in the past week, courtesy of Fantha Tracks TV. So let's get straight into what we're going to be talking about today. And here we go. We've obviously got the very, very sad news that broke today of the passing of Dave Prowse, who played Darth Vader in the original Star Wars trilogy. We're then going to be talking about Mando Monday and everything that came out this past week. We're going to have a look at Columbia's new range, focused on the Mandalorian. We're going to discuss Boba Fett's miniseries, the much rumoured miniseries, and its potential casting. We're then going to look at Season 2 of Disney Gallery coming to Disney Plus on the 25th of December. We're going to meet the characters of Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, the new VR game from ILM. And, we're going to look at the cast and lead actresses in line for Obi-Wan Kenobi's Disney Plus series. In Jabba's Court, we're going to be discussing The Jedi, Chapter 13 of The Mandalorian. And finally, in last round at the Cantina, we're going to be talking about Grogu. The child has a name, and it's been teased that he's going to be going to Tyhon. So who will he meet there? Or who will try and hunt him down? So joining me to discuss all this week is co-host of Making Tracks, Mark Mulcaster. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm really good. How's this past week in Star Wars Galaxy been for you?
It's been pretty good. We had a fantastic episode of Mandalorian, and I got some action figures. So I think all in all, it's pretty been a good week.
We will, of course, start off with the very sad news that broke this morning, or overnight indeed. Dave Prowse, the man who played the physical embodiment of Darth Vader, has passed away. A guy you would have met many times through your work on the convention scene here in the UK. What was your thoughts when you heard the news this morning?
It's sad. I mean, it's always going to be sad when we lose a member of the original trilogy. Unfortunately, Dave had a good innings at 85, and he retired from the convention circuit a couple of years ago. Pretty much because of ill health and that. So it's always sad, but these things happen. Unfortunately, it's just kind of the way the world is, and it's a cruel thing times. So, but like you said, I've met him several times, many different conventions up and down the UK. And he was always really nice to talk to. We spoke a lot about bodybuilding and stuff like that, as well as obviously his time as Darth Vader. And my partner actually let him babysit her two sons while she went out for a social with a 501st one weekend. So that's always been quite a fond memory to bring up. But it's really sad. And I guess, when we go back into the convention scene, when we finally get out lockdown and we can all return, I think it's just another reminder that we should probably start to not take for granted some of the more older cast members who are signing, and just kind of rather than just think to ourselves, well, we're gonna kind of I can get them next week or next month, but actually go and make the time and the effort to talk to these people, because unfortunately they're not going to be around forever.
No. Also known very well in the UK is the Green Cross Code Man, so he kind of transcended popular culture as well.
Yeah.
And, even people that weren't Star Wars fans would have been familiar when they saw the news on the BBC this morning as well.
Yes, yeah. A few of my friends kind of said that he had visited their school back in the day. I can't remember whether or not he came to my school or not, and it's one of those odd things, because obviously we, it gets mentioned a lot in, talking about Star Wars fandom. So I've seen the videos and stuff, but I can't recall if he ever did or not. So But he did make an impact with that, and I think that was probably his, at least for him, his proudest moment, because it had a real kind of like grassroots effect on the kids of the UK.
There's an article up on fathertracks.com just now that sort of covers a lot of the tributes paid to him by his fellow actors from Star Wars and the wider Star Wars community, if people want to check that out. And I think in the last hour, just as we go live, I think Lucasfilm have also put out a statement with some comments from George Lucas as well, which is nice to see, because over the years there's been a lot of tensions in that relationship spanning back to comments from the 1980s and so on that should have been long forgotten, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is, I think, probably one of those real sad things that a lot of the, he wasn't able to make it over to like Celebration recently. And so I think because of a lot of US fans have missed out, and that is obviously like, the saddest part. I mean, these things happen, and, I think there was a bit of blame on both sides, and neither really kind of potentially, succumb to any kind of like pressure or anything. But yeah, it's sad nevertheless.
Yeah. And so we'll just pass on all our thoughts to all his friends and family as well.
Yeah.
Next news item, Mando Mondays. Hasbro announced this past week 2 new figures for their vintage collection. Greef, Karga and the Child. There's a Greef Karga one. Looks lovely in that packaging.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I think I've got this wave already pre-ordered, which is fortuitous, because I think actually when I pre-ordered it, when it came up for pre-order, there was 2 figures on that wave, which was TBA. So I assumed that it would have been announced that. And very happy. It's like Greef Karga was an awesome character in last week's episode. So can't get enough of Carl Weathers these days.
Yeah. Figure looks lovely. Coming out spring next year, $12.99. Also at the same time as the Child, coming with a few accessories as well.
Yeah. I'll be surprised if they don't start renaming him to Grogu. I wonder if they're going to start doing that.
Gives it a chance to put out a variant.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we need.
Moving on, something completely new. Columbia, who did the wonderful Empire Strikes Back jacket, everyone will remember, have announced their Mandalorian range. Pretty expensive high-end items here.
Yeah.
I
mean,
looking first, it's got like a hybrid jacket priced at $320, which it says based on a tribute to the Beskar armor. But
I'm hoping it does more than just protect you from the cold for that kind of price. I mean, it should at least kind of turn a few blaster bolts and stuff. So, it's a bit grayscale to me, really. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Also in their range, what they're calling a helmet gator, I would call a balaclava. Again, 40 quid, too expensive for my liking.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe if you got deep pockets and you've got the jacket, why not just get the helmet gator? I mean, I'll be interested to see actually kind of see that up close, I think.
Yeah. Something kind of cute. They've got like a little jumpsuit for kids there. Again, though, priced maybe a little bit too expensive at £40, I think.
Yeah, adult price.
Yeah, and something as well for the slightly larger younglings, a child-inspired puffer jacket as well there.
I mean, I know a couple of adults that might even try and fit into that child's jacket. So for 80 quid, it's probably not so bad. But yeah, it's still, it's top end really. So, but then the workmanship and the qualities in the Columbia line, so you can't really complain too much about that.
Yeah. Moving swiftly on, there were some rumours about casting for the Boba Fett miniseries, which itself is still a rumour.
Yes.
People are kind of forgetting that. So if it does happen, the name being bandied about is Jordan Bolger, who people will know from Peaky Blinders.
Yeah. He was in a number of the episodes, but then I think his character got recast or something down to like scheduling conflicts that they couldn't resolve. But I'm not familiar with him. I did try and watch Peaky Blinders, but for my sins, I kind of fell asleep during the second episode, and that was it for me. But he's kind of got an edge about him from the photos I've seen. So yeah, at this point, obviously, it's wide open, isn't it? We don't know much about the Fett series, so anything's open.
Something that they threw into the mix in this rumour was the name of Sophie Thatcher, who I don't know too much about, but I do recall she was in the Exorcist TV series playing the young Regan character. She'd been rumoured previously by Deadline of being in the Mandalorian Series 3, which I think they'll be close to start filming very soon. And she's now being connected to the Boba Fett series as well, with a suggestion that she would debut in that. Again, all rumour speculation at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But you never know. Again, she's a young up-and-coming actress, so it'd be great to see her.
Something that is confirmed is Disney Plus launching on Christmas Day, 25th of December. Season 2 of Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. I loved season 1 of this. I love seeing anything Star Wars behind the scenes, and it's something that's been a little bit missing from the Star Wars license since Disney bought the franchise from George Lucas, and so it was a nice change to get a chance to hear in depth from the creative people and see a little bit behind the scenes. Are you looking forward to
Oh, massively. Yeah, I've already told the girlfriend that we won't be opening a single present on Christmas Day until I've had a chance to watch the first episode of Gary. I think it was one of those pivotal shows that really kind of helped tie everything together. And I think, bearing in mind how wide a success for Mandalorian was, I think it really worked to help kind of bring in and explain a lot of the process to more casual fans. And I mean, they did this one episode, I think, about where they kind of did all the references. I know the girlfriend Mark, but yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good. And they've not said really like how big or how many episodes it's going to be in this series. So I think we've got 8 episodes last season. Yeah. So whether or not they're going to do that again, or we might end up with like a feature or something. I mean, I suppose it depends on how much has changed or developed over this, the making of season 2. So yeah, really excited.
The interesting thing, as you say, we don't know what's happening in terms of episode numbers and how it'll be released. It was done weekly last time, so likelihood it'll be very similar to that again.
Yeah.
Something I've not had the chance to dig into yet is the VR game Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. I do have an Oculus. I know our social media guy Matt Booker's been posting some stuff to the Fanta Tracks Instagram as he's been playing the game. Not so sure if you've had a chance to dip into the VR world of Star Wars yet.
No, for my sins, I haven't. I've been meaning to kind of get an Oculus or something just so I can just play Squadrons. But yeah, I mean, all this stuff like, stuff with Vader and the, Tales from Galaxy's Edge and that, it looks really good. And so I think, it's going to be something I'm going to have to try and pick up. Maybe I'll see if I can get one in the January sales or something.
Yeah. And of course, big part of this new game is Batuu. But they're also featuring the High Republic in a tale set in the High Republic era based on Batuu.
Yeah. I mean, this character, was it AD Sun Z? She looks pretty cool. She's a Padawan. But yeah, it's always nice to kind of get a little bit more insight into what's going on Batuu, the busiest out of the way spaceport there is.
Yeah. More rumours this week. It has been a week for rumours. Was to do with the cast for the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series, a series that is actually confirmed. They've had a casting announcement go out allegedly. where there's been 4 character descriptions thrown out there. A character of Riley, Tia, Harold, and Bella. These things are normally deliberately left pretty vague, and especially in a Star Wars casting, because if you tell an actor it's Star Wars, there's a role that may suit you, they're going to apply. They're not having to try and coax people into applying for certain roles here. So whether any of this information ends up being at all relevant is probably very vague. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, but it's left deliberately vague because I guess really what they kind of want to sometimes do is kind of just kind of throw out the casting net pretty wide and then just see what they catch. And that's just it. You never know who you're gonna meet in the auditions and stuff. So to be honest, Chris, I have no idea. But if you find out, mate, let me know because I'll be right up there. I don't know if I really fit any of the kind of the specific character kind of requirements they want. But hey, I give it a go. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to guess then that potentially this was it Riley or something, the younger female lead is possibly the one who's going to interact most with Obi-Wan, whether or not she finds out he's a Jedi and if she has any connection to Luke Skywalker or anything like that. Maybe she is like from a Jedi Order of some description, some kind of survivor from Order 66. So who knows? I mean, at this point it's wide open. So yeah,
I'm not too familiar with the actresses connected with the role of Riley beyond Naomi Scott, who I believe I'm right in saying was originally cast for the Game of Thrones prequel that was cancelled after they filmed unaired episode as a trial. So she's certainly interested in doing TV work and she's available. So very possible she's in the running there. Paul Naylor there suggesting Joel Edgerton appearing as Owen Powers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the all the connections that we can make to the prequels and the theatrical kind of Star Wars films, and I think it's great. I mean, I'd love to see some kind of connection to Alderaan and Bail Organa. So it'd be great to see maybe Jimmy Smits reprise his role, or even like Genevieve O'Reilly, perhaps. These characters and their actors are kind of age where they wouldn't need to be aged up or down or anything. So I think it would be great to have these kind of connections.
I would like to see a little bit more about the formation of the rebellion on screen. I think it's often forgot that Mon Mothma, Bail Organa were all members of the Senate when the Emperor came to power, who came to power legally on a vote. And technically, they were the ones that committing the crime and starting up a rebellion. So I've always wanted to kind of see how they would play that out on screen because it's quite a complicated little tale there.
That's it. It is. It's from a certain point of view, the good guys really are kind of like the bad guys. We're the ones who disrupt, and the law and order. So yeah, it's interesting to see what they could do there, but there's scope for that, so why not?
Mr. Newbuild there with a terrible joke. If you want a connection to Alderaan, hire the Rock.
That's
dear,
pretty bad. Yeah.
I think so. I think that with the news covered, it's time for us to head over to Jabba's court. So this week on Jabba's Court, we're obviously discussing the Mandalorian Chapter 13, The Jedi. First time we've seen Ahsoka Tano on live-action TV screens. She was previously name-checked 2 episodes back. And the child got a name of Grogu. But what did you think, first of all, about the overall episode?
Really, really strong. Really kind of blown away by it. It was one of those episodes where the actual kind of like the events of the episode, this kind of story, like the backstory behind why like what's going on the planet. It kind of played a second fiddle to more important character development and backstory with a child and stuff. So I was really blown away. It was kind of an intense but well-paced, albeit slightly slower kind of episode. There wasn't quite as much kind of like big kind of action set pieces. I mean, you had the fights, but even those fights were slightly more subdued. I mean, it had a very kind of Japanese samurai kind of feel about it, both from the design and also the fighting styles, obviously, of Ahsoka and the Magistrate. The Magistrate is, in fact, I believe, the goddaughter of Bruce Lee. So, and she's pretty kind of like big in the whole kind of martial arts world. So it all makes sense. I thought it was beautifully shot, pretty well directed. So yeah, I mean, it's like a double thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I thought the introduction of Ahsoka Tano was great for me as well. I've confessed to my sins of not being a fan of Star Wars animation, and so I'm not overly familiar with the character. I know enough about her to understand it on, but I thought, similar to the way they introduced Bo-Katan, there wasn't a long, drawn-out explanation of her history. I don't think it was necessary in the way that they did introduce her.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was a good move to kind of get her in right at the top. I was quite surprised that, straight out of the gate, we see her taking on the bad guys and stuff. Because you have a risk where you can build up a character, and then obviously for those who kind of don't know the character, such as yourself, will be like, well, what's the big deal? So it's good to get her in at the start. And I think also the pacing allowed for some really nice moments with Grogu, between her and the child and stuff, and it didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like they were trying to cram loads of exposition in it. It felt natural, and I was really impressed with the episode.
A few people there commenting that the fight reminded them of the Kill Bill line scene as well. Yes,
yeah, Kill Bill Volume 1, yeah. I mean, some of the framework was pretty much bang on, to be fair. And they do this really well. They take these kind of like inspirations, and I wouldn't say homages as such for like the overall episode, but there's definitely kind of, you can tell the episode was kind of inspired by that. And that whole, the time of day that whole scene was set, just it felt like we were actually watching a live action version of Rebels set on Lothal, because it had that kind of beigey kind of tone about it, which almost felt painted at times. So I thought it looked really cool.
I actually thought that the fight where they're fighting, where there's the water either side of them, I actually think that was filmed on location, because I think it was in the same location was used in an episode of Stargate many years ago.
Really?
I couldn't find the episode. I've been scanning for it. I couldn't find it. But if anyone knows, I think it was an episode where the character Daniel Jackson encountered a Mongolian monk, and I thought that was the same location. If not, it certainly had the vibes of that. A lot of Macquarie art as well. Contributed in this episode as well, which is always nice to see.
Exactly. It just goes to show how they're really kind of drilling down to, like, the aesthetics of what Star Wars is, and not necessarily making it very derivative. They're not kind of referencing Star Wars as such, but they're referencing the the influences of Star Wars, which is totally the right way to go about it.
Yeah. What did you think about the way they introduced Ahsoka? And there was a comment there that she's kind of like a grey Jedi in a sense, and that it was quite a violent, forceful way in which she's been introduced.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, the thing is, when we see the Jedi basically in animated shows, which is a little bit sanitized. So I guess it's like a Jedi kind of, being kind of like set for the kind of like the target audience. It's interesting actually what Chris says in the chat about like the movements are really slow. I kind of thought that as well. I kind of thought that everything just felt a bit like the movements didn't feel as fast as what we've seen before. But then again, we're referencing back to animation, and we can't expect a direct kind of like conversion of Ahsoka that we see in the Clone Wars or Rebels to work directly in the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian doesn't have such a kind of a big script. You know, every character doesn't kind of like talk for the sake of it, like I'm doing now. You know, every word seems to be economically kind of chosen, and so I think she had kind of like the gravitas, which made her fit into the actual series a lot more than if they just kind of plucked her directly out of Rebels and stuck her in.
I think a lot of it's because we're not used yet to the fact, and certainly in the Star Wars franchises, of having clear crossovers between animation, live action, publishing, and they kind of hinted there's going to be more, and the name dropped Grand Admiral Thrawn in there as well.
Yes,
so
yeah.
They're certainly past this point of being frightened to connect the dots around the whole sort of Star Wars expanded universe, if we can still.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of obviously, you know, pulling in from the animated series. We had Bo-Katan the previous week, and as you said, like last week, we had Dark Troopers kind of mentioned, kind of, and so yeah, it's a good, bold, positive step, and I think really, the Mandalorian as a series is doing so much work when it comes to setting up potential spin-offs, which of course is kind of what Bob Iger and Matt really wanted to do. They kind of wanted a like a main series of them making kind of spin-off from it, and so it's, you know, this is, if we don't see Ahsoka again, and if we, for instance, if we don't see Boba Fett again, it doesn't matter, because if they're going to get their own series, we've got this main thread line of the Mandalorian story, and it's kind of creating new opportunities as we go, which is great.
I think there's a case of they can certainly see in Disney Plus and react quite quick to what characters land. And you know, they may have an intention in their mind or a thought in their mind. They don't need to go that way. You know, you can turn around a TV show quite quick, and there could be a character out there that you know, everybody kind of feels that one works. You know, there was great comments about the Marshal from the first episode of season 2.
Yeah,
you could quite easily do something there. He doesn't have to remain on Tatooine. He could venture off somewhere.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. You know, something that becomes pretty organic.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, that's the one missing link really between Ahsoka and Thrawn is actually what happens to Ezra, because obviously the last time we see Ahsoka is that at the end of Rebels, she's off to the unknown regions to hunt for Ezra with Sabine Wren. Now, whether or not during that kind of quest they discover that Grand Admiral Thrawn's alive, and her and Sabine kind of split up, and Sabine goes off to find Ezra, and Ahsoka is the one who's strongest, so therefore goes to tackle Thrawn. We don't know, but there's definitely a story there, so hopefully we can see that.
The child got a name.
He
out
did.
Of the blue, Grogu.
Yes.
First of the Yoda species that doesn't start with a Y. What was your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts were, well, when I first heard Grogu's name, I wasn't too sure on it to begin with, but it kind of grew on me. It kind of grew on me, you could say. So, you know, to be honest, it's fine. I think they made the right decision to actually finally give him a name, because the longer we keep on referring to him as Baby Yoda, or even the child, the harder it is for us to kind of get used to it. I mean, take the Emperor, for instance. You know, people still can't get used to calling him Sheev. And whether or not Sheev's a good name or a bad name, it doesn't matter. It's just the fact that it felt kind of wedged in. This felt natural. And really, to be fair, if anybody's going to know his name other than himself, it's going to be Ahsoka. And, you know, obviously, you know, the little guy doesn't have a way of kind of verbalizing and properly communicating as such with the Mandalorian yet. So it was a clever way of kind of getting that bit of information across. I was fine with it. So
I kind of half expected that when they revealed the name, they might introduce some form of vocabulary to him to allow him to have that little bit more of an interaction with the Mandalorian. So I'm surprised they didn't sort of take that direction this week. I mean, a little prompting from Ahsoka might have made it start speaking.
Yeah, well, that's just it. There's a part of me that potentially thinks that maybe we see some big, almost evolution happens when he gets to Tyhon. Like something happens and he kind of goes through some kind of like metamorphosis or some kind of change, and he suddenly kind of grows up, or at least grows into those massive eyes of his. Because, like, you look at Yoda and Yaddle, and they've got relatively like human-sized eyes in comparison, but he's got really big eyes. So, I mean, it would be good, but I think also in some respects we kind of. The comedian of the group, yes. No, I mean, but he's not far off, obviously, with some of the things we've seen in this season with between him and Mando, like him trying to fix the ships, very kind of, I am Groot and stuff like that, very Guardians of the Galaxy. But I'd be interested to see what happens. It would be nice if they could kind of find a way for him to kind of like get across more of his feelings, because I think even though he's meant to be like a child, you kind of think there's definitely more going on behind those eyes than what he's letting on. And they kind of said that in the episode, didn't they, about like he had suppressed his force powers to survive. So if you're knowingly suppressing your force powers, then you've got to be aware of the danger you're in. So you've got to have a lot more self-awareness and what he's maybe kind of allowing people to believe.
That's kind of where I thought they might go when they introduced Ahsoka, and they're sort of exploring his powers and what he's going. Because you've got to remember, he may be a child, but he's 50, and they revealed in this episode he's been getting trained at the Jedi Temple. So
for several years,
but it's not a baby in a cot, how it's often been portrayed. This is a young, active, intelligent, communicative child here that. And the last couple of episodes have started exploring with him, sort of helping fix the ship. This episode was kind of interacting a little bit more with the characters than he has done before. So it does feel like in order to develop the relationship, they need to do something a little bit more with them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think this episode really made up for kind of how little we've really had of the child, and since the beginning of the season. He's kind of, at least for the first couple of episodes, were very much just there for to get reactionary shots and stuff like that. So it's good, but who knows? I mean, because I know last time actually I came on, you mentioned how you were expecting Ahsoka to take on the child and kind of go off on her own adventures. So were you disappointed that didn't happen?
I'm kind of split on this divide here, that I feel it's difficult for the Mandalorian to exist and have this child with him unless they develop the child in some way that allows the child to actually take on a communicative and active role, which they have started to explore. I kind of expected there to be the nice easy link for Ahsoka to get a spin-off was for the child to go with her, and it would take some fans in that direction who aren't familiar with who Ahsoka is, love the child, and it would just be the connection between the two. Could still happen, but I don't think it will.
Could still happen. I
don't think it will now, but hopefully we've kind of drawn a line where we're now going to see something more active with the child. It needs to happen.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, exactly. I mean, because they're going into, if they make a straight line for Tyhon, that's a big old journey into the deep core. That's pretty close to like Coruscant and that. So there's so much opportunity to explore planets that maybe we haven't seen since the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy, or just planets that we've only read about in the expanded universe. So they've kind of blown it wide open, I think.
And we've just got time to go for one last round at the Cantina. So the one thing from the Mandalorian Chapter 13, the Jedi we didn't discuss, was the planet Tyhon. It was mentioned towards the end of the episode that Mando and the child should head in that direction, and Grogu may be able to reach out through the Force and communicate with a Jedi who may be able to help train him. So my question this week is, what Jedi might Grogu communicate with?
Well, Luke Skywalker, really, for one. That would be the big obvious one. If Filoni kind of kind of basically kind of sticks to form and introduces more of his characters from Rebels and Clone Wars, and there's potential that it could be Ezra for all we know. But I mean, at the same time, as Phil says, it could be Spirit Yoda. I mean, it all depends really. If he's reaching out, then yeah, he could totally cross that plane and speak to Spirit Yoda or Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon.
It would be controversial if it was Spirit Yoda and the first wild word of Grogu was Dad.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So did he get all the Christmas cards I sent you? Like, no. I mean,
some of theirs mentioned Mace. It's not a name I'd heard suggested. That's a good shout, I think.
Yeah, no, it's potential. Yeah.
Tuani.
Maybe not Mace Tuani, but I mean, crazy Mace Windu, half an arm running around the galaxy. I don't know. I mean, it would be massive, wouldn't it, if it was Luke Skywalker? I'm guessing they would have to do, not serious de-aging, but a fair amount of de-aging for Mark. Because I'm guessing they couldn't do exactly what they did for Rise of Skywalker, which is kind of like his face from an earlier film. But who knows? Deep fakes and all that. It's not like a million miles away from what we can do now on our phones. So
I've got a couple of ideas of what direction they may go. I think
go on then.
Ochi of Bastoon, because they could in theory say that he was the guy who took him from the Jedi Temple.
Yeah, no, that's a good link. Yeah.
And that would link sequels, trilogy back in. They've sort of been doing that with the clones a little bit. And it could create an arch nemesis for Mando.
Yeah.
The other theory I've got is they're going to use a character from the High Republic era, because those of us who've been following what they've been teasing with regards the High Republic issue 1 during January, you'll see that it features Tyhon as well.
True.
You could bring in any old Jedi from that series. Big ups that series just before its launch, and there's no established look or feel to any of the characters, so you can get any actor you want to take on that role. Yeah,
I mean, but that'd be a bold thing, because we've not. I mean, beyond like the world beyond worlds kind of thing, but we're kind of potentially. Are we talking like time traveling, like a physical kind of planting, or you think more of a
Jedi spirit?
Jedi spirit. Yeah, I mean that is a good shout. I mean, and to be fair, even like Ouch of Bestoon's a good shout, just partly because I think what hasn't happened so much with this series so far really is like linking in that sequel trilogy. I know we started to kind of see kind of like clones of some description, be it Palpatine or Snoke in the pickle jars in episode 12. It's 12? I think it's 12, yeah. But yeah, we're still kind of like very proto First Order. So I think they definitely need to kind of think about trying to kind of create those ties to the sequel trilogy. So something like that would be cool. I mean, we don't know when Ochi died as such, do we, necessarily? So he could be around, and that would be a great like nemesis, like you said. We don't know. I mean, he's a Jedi hunter, but do we know if he's force sensitive? Has he got like some kind of force abilities? Because that would again really kind of make for an interesting kind of dynamic. So
yeah, there's no canon. If you've seen the Lego Holiday Special, check
yes.
it out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Moff Gideon, of course, could be force sensitive. He's got the Darksaber there. We don't know that. And we do know that he is physically tracking the Mandalorian. So
yes,
he could turn up and interrupt whatever Mando and the child plan to do when they're there to communicate with the Jedi. So
yeah, I mean, well, they planted the tracking beacon, and as far as we're aware, Mando hasn't found it. So wherever he's going, he's kind of going unbeknownst that he's being tracked. I mean, the question is, do you think they're going to get to Typhon by the end of this season, or do you think this is like a bigger quest? Because there's a lot of potential for this could be like a quest that could, take several episodes or like a whole season to get to.
Yeah. I think we've got 3 episodes to go. You've got to have a Moff Gideon focused episode.
Yeah, agreed.
You could have a Boba Fett focused episode. And I think you need to have another episode where Cara Dune and Greef Karga are involved again. So
that's definitely coming. Yeah,
that's 3 episodes there.
Yeah,
I think, and of course there'll probably be crosses between all 3 there, and it makes me think that maybe it'll get pushed to next series, or it'll be a bit of a swerve and nothing quite connecting the Jedi will happen. Or if it does happen, maybe he does communicate with a Jedi, but we don't see or hear from that Jedi, and that Jedi is going to turn up in series 3.
Yeah, exactly. And also there's a whole thing, isn't there, of like, the way Ahsoka said is like he reaches out and then a Jedi might respond. Now, how long do you wait on Tyhon to get your answer? Do you expect that to happen in a matter of a day, or do you wait a week or a month? So there's all that kind of like things to discuss. I mean, but yeah, I reckon. I mean, we're definitely going to get like at least another episode with Cara Dune. I wouldn't be surprised if we get like an episode where we see Fennec Shand come back, just because I think that one character that started with the Mandalorian, and we haven't really got any confirmation whether or not if she actually died or not. So I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back. And yet, there's got to be some kind of showdown. I would like to see a return of Bo-Katan, and maybe Bo-Katan kind of like I say rescues, comes to the aid of like Din Djarin, who's kind of really stuck up against Moff Gideon. So there's lots of possibilities there, I reckon. So
the other 2 options, maybe Rob Wayne first throwing out there, Obi-Wan. We know Ewan McGregor's been getting fitted quite easy. He could have done something very simple.
Force Ghost, easy, yeah.
What about the Emperor? Throw him in there.
Well, I mean, that's just it. I mean,
or stroke Snoke.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. We don't really know kind of like when exactly. I think Snoke kind of came on the scene, but we also don't know what how strong the Emperor is right now. So yeah, he is probably one of the strongest Jedi presence out there, or Force sensitive presence out there. So it might be one of those things. Maybe there's an overarching plot to get Grogu. I'm intent to just refer to him as Grogu now. Get Grogu to be the vessel that Palpatine inhabits. Who knows? You
could have a young Rey. She fits into that timeline just.
I mean, I kind of, it's a bit like, I kind of see that Rey is kind of one of those one and done, her story really starts with The Force Awakens because, so, I mean, there's no reason why they don't end up on Jakku at some point. I mean, they seem to have a hellhole, so they might as well end up on Jakku. But, Maz Kanata, she's kind of Force sensitive, so she's been around. And if anybody knows anything about being small and old, it's her, so.
There's lots of options. So next week is going to be interesting to see what happens. And,
exactly.
We'll be covering it again on Good Morning Tatooine. So thanks for joining me this week, Mark.
You're welcome. It's been fun.
We'll say good day.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and be a part of our live shows.